I graduated from college 30 years ago this week, May 1972. And if you, the ECSU class of 2002, live moderately and practice safe sex and watch your cholesterol and alcohol intakes and obey the rules of the road and the law of averages, you will face, in the year 2032, the 30th anniversary of your graduation. Now think about that for a minute. 2032. Spider-Man will be an American movies classic. Britney Spears will be menopausal. And Madonna and P. Diddy will be eligible for the senior citizen discount at Walmart. 30 years ago, the world was, as it is today, in a chaotic state. 1972 saw the slaughter of Israeli athletes by Palestinian terrorists at the Olympic Games in Munich, Germany, and in retaliation, the bombing of targets in Lebanon and Syria by the Israelis. Richard Nixon, who was not a crook, won the re-election in a landslide, even as the cover-ups and dirty dealings of Watergate began to surface. American servicemen your age and younger were still returning home from Vietnam, some of them as dead and body-bagged as my physiology cat, others with the time bombs of Agent Orange and post-traumatic psychosis ticking away inside of them. Down the road at Electric Boat, they were cranking out attack subs to fight the communists, and our Cold War economy was booming. But it was not all hot and Cold War and politics back in '72. Life was a party, too. We college kids grew our hair long, we tie-dyed our T-shirts, got high, got laid, sprayed our underarms with Right Guard, and filled our tanks with leaded gas at 65 cents a gallon, all to the beat of the Temptations and the Stones and Carole King, who sang in a generational anthem of sorts that she felt the earth move under her feet. "Turn that damn music down," my father would shout up the stairs, and I would smirk and turn it up a notch or two on the old geezer instead. Today, the violence in the Middle East is more savage than ever. Vietnam is an engraved wall of names that you can touch like a wound when you're in Washington, or a derelict that you can tiptoe past on the sidewalk of some big city. Most of 1972's rock legends are dead or defunct, the exceptions being those leather-faced trilobites, the Rolling Stones, and the forever young Tina Turner. And all that leaded gas we burned, all those aerosol sprays we used so indiscriminately, have depleted the environment and eaten holes in the ozone layer. And not long ago, my 17-year-old son was taking a shower and blasting the Strokes or the White Stripe or some CD at a volume that I found unreasonable. And I enlisted his 11-year-old brother to bang on the bathroom door and tell him to turn it down. And their shouted conversation carried down the stairwell. Bang, bang, bang. "Justin, turn the music down." "Says who?" "Says the old geezer." I looked around for my father. He wasn't there. And so it goes. Time accelerates, you get a diploma, get a life, blink twice, and you're a certified old geezer asked to spout words of wisdom at a nice ceremony like this one. You scratch your head and try for the good of your audience to say something useful about life. And suddenly you feel as temporal and ill-equipped as a fruit fly. 30 years ago, diploma in hand, I returned to my old high school to teach English. "Hello, Mrs. Minky. Hello, Mr. Minky." "Wally, please. We're Jim and Dorothy." I was assigned the classes that no one else wanted, the sweat hogs my students like to call themselves. I was 21, and so were 3 or 4 of the kids in my senior class. We honeymooned for 2 or 3 weeks, the sweat hogs and I, and then one morning I poked the shoulder of a disaffected young man named Steve, who was asleep with his head on the desk. I needed to wake up Steve so that I could exchange the paper book he had not read for the new paperback he wasn't going to read. "Steve," I said, "get your head off the desk. "Here's the new book." And he looked up at me with little boy lost, bloodshot eyes, and he said, "Mr. Lamb, why don't you stick that book up your," well, let me not be indelicate here. Suffice to say that if I had done as Steve suggested, I would have been able to spot the paperback on a monitor at Wyndham Hospital in the middle of my recent colonoscopy. But anyway, the gauntlet had been thrown down, the classroom fell to dead silence, and the sweat hogs and Steve and I held our collective breath and waited for my response.